A blessed Wednesday to us. Let me start my reflection and challenge for today's readings in our liturgical celebration with the first reading with a question. Did you ever ask yourselves why Moses was not allowed to enter the promised land? Why was he only allowed to take a look into it? I always remember this interesting question as well, because when you are, for example, during my studies, we were brought into this very place when we are told by our professor to take a look. Whatever was described into this gospel reading, you actually can see. No? That's why we have this interesting expression, peekaboo, no? Because Moses was just given that privilege to take just a survey of what the promised land was as promised to Abraham. But the question is, again, let's not evade the question. Why was not Moses allowed entrance into the promised land? What is your sa inyong pangagpas? Well, basing on the narratives that we have been reading, today the reading ends the so-called Pentateuch, no? The end of the first five books of Moses in the Bible, from Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Now, there is a little thing that we have to take into perspective, why God's justice pervades here. Now, Moses was not allowed to enter the promised land because he did not follow instruction. There was one moment when he did not follow an instruction from God. And what was that? When the people were crying out for water, God told Moses, strike the rock and it will yield water. Strike the rock once. But what did Moses do? He struck it twice. So, simple ra kayo na siya nga detalye. Usay, malimtan, mangyud galing nato. But it's very real in our lives. Students are particular about this. Those who take the board, follow instructions and it will do good. Unless kung wa jud ka katuon o naadyoy di malas sa imong kinabuhi. But following instructions is practically at the first step whenever we talk about commandments or precepts or what we call orders, no? To follow the instruction of the Lord. This is what Moses actually failed to comply. Nga naman, he was taken by the energy of the people who were so samukan kay tanan. No? And this is a very good challenge for leaders as well, not to be consumed, okay, by the members. But of course, the responsibility takes in to the picture. But Moses was not able to hold it. Although Moses was repentant, of course we know it. Nga naman, what is our proof that God actually was just putting it in a transitory manner? Because even his tomb now, nobody can remember. Because according to the tradition, in the extra-biblical context, Moses was assumed to heaven. And why was he assumed to heaven? Because in the New Testament, he appeared with Jesus on Mount Tabor. No? So nakasulod lagi hapon siya. Di ba? Because it's the will of God. But things as it is interestingly put into perspective, unsa may nagdala sa katawhan sa Dios nga nagpahiusa kanila? The commandments. And if the commandments are not followed, then something goes along the way. Something awry goes along the way. Just like in the gospel reading, if you try to take that into perspective, Jesus gives the step-by-step procedure of dealing with an erring brother or sister. No? Unsa may una, you have to do it, kamurag yung duha. No, di ba? Usay mo ingon ta nga, sige to, kuan lang ta kay ako ang tibuok kalibutan mahibalo, no? No, it has to be personal, one by one. Og dili gani, there is now the step 2. Di pa gani na pa step 3. Okay? But hindi na ito paabdun sa step 3. No? Pero kita, social media dayon. Labi na rong panahon na, dali na kayo hala, balandra na dahil itong balita. No? Nga usahay, fake news ra bagyod pod. Sayop ang ato-apong mga detalye, no? That's why not following instructions is actually a very significant, a very important thing in our lives. Let's try to do it in our own little ways. Siguro kita sa atong tagsatag sa kakaugalingon o paagi, we have ways and means. No, natay mga punto por punto, step by step nga buluhaton. Usahay, dili ta mahimutang kon, dili masunod. Pero ayaw lang kay basig maok-ok unya ta. Kabalo mo unsay ok-ok. Ha? Obsessive compulsive. Lahi na po ng istorya. But then to make the picture clear, following the instruction is part and parcel of following the commandments of the Lord. After all, it is for our own good. It is to establish order. It is to establish harmony as well. And so as we continue with this Eucharistic celebration, let us always ask this from the Lord, from our own hearts, from the depths of our hearts, and with our consciousness. Now we have to also to follow instructions, because that is for our own good and for the good of others. Amen.